Hi, I'm Pam East, and today I'm going to show you how to use accent gold. Accent gold is a genuine gold overlay product. You paint it onto your silver jewelry to get gold effects. I really like it better than Kembu for some things because you can use it with a lot more precision. Accent brand comes in two varieties. They have Accent Gold for silver, which is 24 karat yellow gold, very beautiful. And then they also have Accent Rose Gold, which is 18 karat and has that beautiful rosy color to it. I'm going to be showing you how to apply it, how to fire it, how to finish it. And I'm even going to show you how to use both products on the same piece to get a two-tone effect. It's a lot of fun. So let's get started. When it comes to metal clay, there's like no metal prep at all. You want to use the material right out of the kiln. So this has been fired, but I haven't brushed it, I haven't tumbled it. It is exactly the way it comes out of the kiln, and that is the perfect surface for applying gold products. It's got a little tooth to it, and it's absolutely clean. Now, if you want to work with sheet metal, or if you want to add gold to a piece you've previously polished, then you're going to have to do some extra work. So if it's metal clay or if it's fine silver, just throw it in the kiln. Just refire it. That will help a lot. If it's sterling, you are going to have to depletion gild it because the gold has to be applied to a fine silver surface. You'll also want any smooth surface will need to be abraded. You'll need to rough it up a little bit, not super, but enough so that it's going to hold the product. So you can use like the company recommends an 80 grit bristle disc on your flex shaft, or you can just use steel wool or something like that to just rough it up a little bit so that it's got some tooth and it will hold the product. But really, that's it. That's all there is to preparing the metal. One of the things I like about the Accent product is that it's shipped in a powdered form. It's not pre-mixed. So if you don't open it, it's good indefinitely. You're not going to open a brand new package a year after you buy it and find a little hockey puck in there. It's just still going to be loose powder. You do need to mix it up to start with, and we're going to, let me talk about what you need to do that. I recommend assigning some dedicated brushes for your gold work. I really like having a brush for this so that you're not wasting the gold that ends up in the bristles. I like to have two brushes. I've got this is a silver white bright number 2, which is a nice brush for mixing up the product. And I also have a silver white round 00 and for doing very precise application. And these are the two brushes. And you can see that I have flagged them so that I know that that's what these brushes are for. I also have two brushes set up for my yellow gold, so I do keep those separate. You need to be using distilled water. That's the only mixing agent it requires. It doesn't require any other mixing agents, and it hydrates beautifully. The other thing I found with this product is that when it does dry out, because let's face it, you're going to put it away and not use it for a while and you're going to get it back out, it rehydrates beautifully too. Some of the other products I have tried get very gummy, or they get they get into little chunks and they don't rehydrate smoothly. But the Accent product, in my experience, rehydrates like a dream. I think it's because it doesn't have those other additives in it. So let's go ahead and mix it up. And I'm going to start by adding about 8 to 10 drops of water. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's start with 8 and see how it goes. All right. It's not going to saturate immediately. It takes time for the water to absorb into the binder. You can't actually hydrate gold. What we're hydrating is the binder. And it takes a few minutes for this to happen. You're going to be mixing for a good 2 minutes. I'll probably be doing some camera magic so you don't have to watch me stir for 2 minutes. But let's see how this goes. You're looking for a kind of a thick, syrupy consistency. I don't want to add too much water. I can always add more water later if I need it, but I don't want to add too much and make it too watery. If I end up making it too watery, then you have to leave it with the cap off for a while and let some of that water evaporate out. If it's too thin, it's not going to apply thickly enough. That's starting to look pretty good. This is the yellow gold, by the way. All right, so that's what I want to see. That's looking really good. It's kind of syrupy, it's flowing, but it's still thick. It might need another drop of water later, but before I do that, I'm going to cap it and I'm going to let it rest. So let me just go ahead and get as much as I can off the brush. And I'm not going to clean that brush off right now. That'll just resaturate when I put it back in. And I'm going to cap this and we're going to let it rest. I have my test pieces all ready to be painted up with the gold paste. And I'm going to start with the Accent Gold for Silver, which is the 24 karat yellow gold product. I want you to notice that I do have two little water dishes out here. One is for my Accent Gold for Silver and the other is for the Accent Rose Gold. I don't want to cross-contaminate, so I do have two different rinse cups for my brushes. And this is just a little candle votive. That's the easiest way to get a little dish. If you want to get really fancy, you have to go to fancy art stores. The other thing I have on hand is a little piece of cheesecloth, and the cheesecloth is used for cleanup. I don't want to lose a grain of gold. I'm going to recover as much as I can, but what I can't recover, I'm going to wipe up with this cheesecloth, which can later be taken to a refiner and recycled. And I have gotten as far in this as I can without glasses. At this point, my ability to pretend to see isn't going to cut it anymore, so you get to deal with the glare off my glasses. Okay, so here we go. And here's the Accent Gold for Silver, and it has now gotten completely saturated. It's got that nice syrupy consistency that we wanted. And I'm going to start applying it. So let me get this over here. And it's not difficult. I mean, we're just going to paint it on. The one thing you don't want to do is go over the same spot multiple times. If I go brush, 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 what's going to happen is I'm going to end up taking off as much as I put on. I more want to just daub it on. And I'm just going over this leaf, which is going to highlight it. Now, if I get somewhere I don't want it, I can clean that up before I fire it. Here, let me get somewhere I don't want it so I'll have something to clean up later before I fire it. Now, I'm going to have to let this dry, and then I'm going to put on a second coat. You do 2 coats before you fire it. The other thing I like about this product, some of the other gold overlay products I've used, I've needed to put overlay paste under them. With this one, I find it works just fine, exactly how the manufacturer designed it, which is going directly on. All right, so there's the Accent Gold for Silver, and now I'm going to do the Accent Rose Gold. Let's do the Rose Gold. And let me make sure that that's mixed up the way I want. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. It came out a little thin. I think I added a little much on the water, so I'll probably leave this open, but I'm going to go ahead and do the first application. And just like with the Accent Gold for Silver, I'm going to daub it on, and I'm going to do 2 coats. So there we go. So you can see this isn't going on quite as well. It's too thin. So I'm going to go ahead and stop, and I'm going to let the accent gold, rose gold dry out a little bit. I'm going to let some of that water evaporate. I did get it oversaturated, and I want it thicker than that. So I'm going to stop now, and I'll come back in a minute when this is drier. All right, so I let it evaporate. I let some of the water evaporate. And now I've got that consistency that I needed. It's not so watery. It's going to apply a lot better. I used my cheesecloth to wipe off the watery stuff, and now I'm starting over. So here we go. That's going on much better. You don't want to be able to see the silver through the paste. You do want to get the silver all covered up. This is going in. Now, interestingly, they when they're wet, they look like the same color. So make sure you know which product you're using and which brushes you've picked up. They don't look exactly the same after they're dry. All right, so that's applied. And you can see the difference in color between the accent gold for silver and the accent rose gold. The accent gold for silver is a little lighter once it's dry, although they look very similar when they're wet. All right, so once these are dry, I'll go ahead and I'll do the second coat, and then we'll talk about firing. Oh, wait a minute. I got one more thing I want to show you. Hang on, I'll be right back. The other thing I wanted to show you was that two-tone effect. You can use both products at once on one piece, and I'm going to show you that. Now, this is a little tree that I've done, and it's got all these wonderful leaves, and wouldn't it look nice and autumny and fun if the leaves were slightly different shades of gold? So the one thing to keep in mind is to have your 2 cups of water, your 2 brushes. You don't want to be going back and forth with the same brush, because then you'll get cross-contamination. So we don't want to do that. So I'm going to start with the accent rose gold, and I'm going to do the trunk of the tree in the accent rose gold. Here we go. I'm getting all these little branches, and you want a really fine little brush for this, because you want to be able to apply it with precision. But if you do get a little mess going, there's cleanup that can be done before we fire it, and I'll be showing that in the next segment. All right, so now I'm going to start doing some of the leaves. And I'm not going to do every leaf, because I'm going to leave some of these leaves for the accent gold for silver. And then when I'm ready to work on those, I'll just switch brushes. And now I'm going to start applying that. And you can see it really does look very similar wet. But once it's dry, you'll be able to tell the difference, so that you'll know which leaf got which product. Just like before, I'm going to have to do 2 coats, so it's really important to know where you put what. All right, so I'll continue on with that, and you'll get to see it when I get ready to fire. The first coat is dry, and we're ready to do the second coat. When you dry the first coat, let it air dry at room temperature for at least an hour and a half. You don't want to use a heated method for drying this. That can cause it to bubble or chip off. Just room temperature drying. All right, so we're going to go ahead and apply the second coat. I'm going to show applying on the accent rose gold. The procedure is exactly the same for the accent gold for silver. First thing I want to show you is that now that they're dry, you should be able to see the color difference. This is the accent rose gold, and this is the accent gold for silver. And you can see both of them here on this two-tone piece. And the accent rose gold is a darker color. If that's not apparent in the video, it should be in person. So let me just move these aside, and I'm going to go ahead and do the second coat with the accent rose gold. And I've got my accent rose gold brush and my accent rose gold rinse water. And here we go. Now, the important thing to remember when you do this is not to take too long. If I go stroke, 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 or take too long, I'm going to saturate the first coat, and then it's going to pull up. And I want to make sure that I get the second coat over the first coat without oversaturating or pulling up the first coat. So make sure your brush is well loaded so that you're not having to take multiple brush strokes to do this. It's important that all of the silver be covered. You don't want to have any exposed silver, at least where the gold is. And this should not take very long. And that's it. That's the second coat. Again, I'm going to let it dry for an hour and a half, and then we'll be ready to fire. And I'll talk about the different firing methods for the different applications. You'll want to make sure you do a little cleanup before you fire. Much easier to clean it up now than after it's fired. So I have this piece, and there's like an obvious little spot that needs to be cleaned up. And I may want to clean up around the edges as well. I have a number of tools that I use for cleanup. They're all disposable makeup applicators of some kind or another. They're very inexpensive. They're easy to find. You can find them at beauty supply stores or online. My favorites are the eyeliner applicator. This is two different styles of eyeliner applicator, and one's got a little stiff brush and one's got a felt point, and these allow me to get into fine places and get really close to the edges. If I'm not too close to the edge but I have a stubborn spot, I really like the disposable lip gloss applicator. It's a little firmer, and it'll scrub the surface a little bit, but you don't want to use this too close to your design because you'll end up taking it off. These are also nice for getting into little tight places. These are disposable eyelash applicators. Again, very inexpensive. Each color is a different size on the end, so you go from tiny to microscopic on these. The other thing that you'll want to have is some clean distilled water and a piece of cheesecloth or gauze. And the reason for that is I don't want to just move around the cleanup. I want to make sure I get it off. And so I'll need to clean off my cleanup tools periodically. And I don't want to waste that gold. I never want to waste that gold. Eventually that gauze is going to look like this, and it's completely loaded with gold, and I can add that to my recycling that I take to the refiner, and I can get them to burn that out and get the money back for it. So you never ever waste gold. It's very valuable stuff. So let me go ahead and start cleaning this one up. And you remember that I said that, you know, this one's nice for scrubbing spots that aren't too close. Like if I got a little drop on there, I can come in and I can really scrub on that and loosen it up. And I'm going to want to make sure I don't leave any residue, because if I do, that residue will be gold. So there, that one's cleaned up. And I also have some spots around the edges that I want to clean up. There's a little spot up here that needs a little bit of cleanup. And so I'm going to come in with the brush and just very gently. Now you see I kind of smeared it out. If I leave it smeared out like that, that part will be gold, and I don't want that to be gold. Whoops, got caught. All right. And so I'm going to make sure I clean that off. And I can clean up really close to the edges. There, I caught a little more. And again, I can come back with this one to clean that up. And so you want to do all your cleanup before you do your firing, and then you're ready to fire. There are three methods for firing accent gold for silver. You can use a torch, you can fire it in the kiln on an open shelf, or you can fire it in carbon in a kiln. Now I'll be talking about the carbon firing later when I get to the accent rose gold. But for now I'm going to just talk about these two methods. When you do the kiln firing, you want to preheat the kiln to 1650 with the shelf in there. Then just use a long pair of tweezers to put your piece in, close it up, fire for 7 minutes, pull it out and put it on a heat-safe surface, and then you can burnish it and let it cool. So let me go ahead and demonstrate the torch firing. So here we go. This is a refillable butane torch, and you can get these at any hardware store. And I'm just going to load it up, and you just push this in from the top until it starts kicking back out. So this was actually already full. And then I'm going to light the torch. Here we go. And I'm going to start firing it. And I will start my 3-minute timer as soon as I get this to temperature. Now what I'm looking for is I need to get the silver to the normal sintering temperature, which is white on top, like it's kind of like a charcoal briquette where it's pink underneath and white under the surface. And that's what I'm looking for with the silver parts of this. I want it to be pink under the surface but white on top, and then the gold is going to go to a bright orange. And I won't actually start timing until I get to that sintering temperature. So let me get it there. It won't take too long to get there. The silver is actually already there, but I want to make sure I've got the gold also at sintering temperature. And that's looking pretty good, and I'm going to go ahead and start my timer. Now at this point, I'm going to fire this for 3 minutes. And you can see the color on it. And now I'm going to do a little video magic, and we're going to jump ahead. Okay, we got 5 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so there it is. It's all fired, and now I'm going to burnish it like I would with a Kembu. And this is going, if I do this while it's hot, I get a good, it helps it adhere. So I'm just going to hold it steady, and I'm going to start burnishing it. Actually, I like this other burnisher a little better. And you can see this is gorgeous. I've got a beautiful gold color. It's well adhered. It's not going to come off. And there it is. It's just gorgeous. I just love this. Let me see if I can make it so you can see that better. So I'm going to let that cool, and then next I'm going to show you how to fire the accent rose gold and how to carbon fire accent gold for silver, and then I'll show you all the finishing up after that. Accent rose gold has a little copper in it, and that's what gives it that beautiful color. And as such, it's going to oxidize if you use an air environment. You need a reduction environment in order to fire it. And we're going to be firing it in activated carbon. Now, I recommend the premium acid washed coconut carbon. That's what I use for all my carbons, and I really like it. I think it's the best. And you don't want to use too much. People tend to try and bury things really deeply, but this is going to work better if you don't use too much of it. I'm going to start off by putting about 1 inch of carbon in the pan. I'll just shake that down. And it's not very full. So you can see that you've really only got 1 inch in there. And then I'm going to place the pieces in there face down. Now, this is where my two-tone pieces come in too. When I wanted to do that two-tone where I used accent gold for silver and accent rose gold, I had to figure out how was I going to fire that. And my first thought was, well, let's just try carbon firing and see how it works. Turns out it worked perfectly. So you can, even if it's just accent gold for silver, you could just fire it this way if you wanted to. I'm going to go ahead, and this is one of my two-tone pieces. It's got both the accent rose gold and accent gold for silver on it. And I think I've got 2 more pieces in here that are also two-tone. I really like the two-tone effect. I'll be showing you that later. All right, so I've got these in there, and that's how they're laid down. And now I'm going to put about a 1/2 inch carbon over the top, but really not too much. I don't want to see any silver. I want it completely covered, but I don't want it buried deeply. So I'm going to get that in there and kind of smooth it out a little bit. And you can see that I've got it buried in there, but it's not deep. And then I want to use a lid that has this slot in it because you need that ventilation. So this is what's going to go into the kiln. All right, so when I'm going to go ahead and kiln fire this, one thing I want to do is I want to have some little kiln feet in here to set the pan on, so that it's raised up and the heat's getting all the way around the pan. There's no heat down here in the bottom. So that's the first thing. The other thing is make sure that you don't use a pan that's too big. I've seen people get these big square pans and they fit height-wise, but they go in too deeply. And if you get the pan too close to the thermocouple, what's going to happen is it's going to throw off the firing. So you never want a pan that's so big that it's going to get really close to the thermocouple, and then you're going to have some problems. So this is the size pan I like. It's 6 by 4 by 2, I believe, and it sits nicely in the front half of the kiln, and that's exactly how I'm going to position it. You should always think of your thermocouple as having like half an orange sticking over it, so that nothing gets into that area to throw it off. For this firing, I found that the manufacturer recommended firing was spot on perfect. I got a perfect firing every time. And what it is, it's going to be a ramp speed 4, which is 1500 degrees per hour, temperature of 1415, and a hold time of 20 minutes. And so I'll just run through that really quick. So there's my ramp speed 4, 1500 per hour. My temperature is 1415. My hold time is 20 minutes, and I'm going to just run that. And now what's going to happen is once it's finished firing, the kiln will shut off. You should let it cool in the carbon until it's completely cool. Don't pull it out while it's still warm. All right, we're going to let this go, and then I'll start showing you what things look like after they're fired. All right, everything is out of the kiln, and I'm ready to burnish it, brush it, and get it ready for patina. So one of the things you'll notice is that when you first apply the product and it hasn't been fired, they're very close in color, but after firing, you can see a clear difference. And so here we go. I have this piece here. This has already been fired. You can see the rose gold, you can see the yellow gold, and this one is the rose gold. And I'm going to go ahead and show you what comes next in terms of finishing. And just like when I did the torch firing, the next step is burnishing. So here I go. I'm going to go ahead and start hitting this with an agate burnisher, and that's going to burnish down that gold and bring it right up. And it is absolutely gorgeous. I love this rose gold. I think it's such a beautiful color. Very unique. And if you want to see what that two-tone looks like, here's that two-tone. And I'm going to get the tops of these gears. And there you go. You've got that. And now the next step is going to be brushing. So I'm going to be using a brass wire brush. Whenever you use a brass brush, you want to use it with soap and water so that you don't transfer brass to your piece. I just have a few drops of Dawn in the water, and that's all I need. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to brush it up. And that is the last thing I need to do before I put it in the tumbler. And I do tumble these pieces. I get a lot of students, they get really worried about brushing and tumbling, like the gold is gonna come off. But if you applied it correctly, it's going to be just fine. It isn't going to come off. So once I get it brushed, then it's going to be ready for tumbling. If I'm using my rotary tumbler, I'm going to give it several hours in the tumbler. If I'm using a magnetic tumbler, it's going to take about 15 or 20 minutes. And once I'm done with that, I can add patinas. If you would like to have more information about how to add a patina that has gold on it, check out my craft cast video on Kembu that goes into a lot of detail on using patinas with gold. If you're interested in color patina with liver of sulfur, I have a free YouTube video called Perfect Patina, and if you go check that one out, it'll show you how to do that. And as we finish up here today, enjoy some photos of the finished products, and I'll see you next time.